You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. This is part one of our T20 World Cup first group stage preview, featuring Ireland, Namibia, Netherlands, and Sri Lanka, all of the teams which constitute Group A. I am Jack Hope, and I am joined today by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I feel like we need like a T20 World Cup banner on this, but I'm not in charge of graphics, so maybe Max will surprise us.
Let's see what Max puts out in a couple of days' time. Max,
Don't
we're talking about
you. Generally, gents, as far as commissioning new art and graphics works, before you actually record the podcast, that you'd like the graphics to be added to is a wise move. But
the thing is, though, we're not live here, are we? We have a day or 2 days between this. We haven't even had the IPL final yet, so you've got plenty of time to boot up Adobe Premiere, get to work, beavering away on a new banner. Anyway, before we get to that, I've got a quick question, fellas. How do you rate your overall knowledge of associate cricket?
What's the scale?
1 to 10.
Oh, 10 being an expert. I reckon I'm a 6.
6, that's pretty good. Right, Max, what would you say?
probably half that.
Half 3. I'd say 5, 6. Which sounds like a bad introduction, to a podcast where we're going to tell you all about 4 associate nations or 3 associate nations in Sri Lanka, but they're good as. But actually, it's been quite exciting because we've spent the day learning about a team each, or a couple of teams, I think, in Ross's case. And we've got facts, and we've got knowledge, and we've got predictions. So it's all going to come together. And between us all, we're going to finish this show with like a 7, 8 out of 10 knowledge of at least these 4 associate nations. The other thing that I really like about this tournament, this T20 World Cup, is that we are, you don't often get this in cricket, like exposure to complete unknowns. In the Football World Cup, like Turkey will turn up and people will be like, who the hell are Turkey? And then they'll beat someone. And everyone will be really excited about Turkey. We might get that in this World Cup. I for one, am looking forward to that. So let's increase our knowledge. Let's get excited about the T20 World Cup. But before we do all of that, Ross, messages. You've got about 30 seconds.
We're sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. Can you see my little Woodstock badge here? So if you want any gear, go to their website and use code TCP25 and you'll get 25% off. Also, follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and like this video if you're enjoying this knowledge share that we're giving you. So you're going for like a 0.5 or a 1 out of 10 in your emerging cricket knowledge. We're going to get you to a 7. You don't get that anywhere else. So follow us at the Cricket Pod, like this video. Subscribe to our channel, and find us on Twitter and Instagram, as I said, the Cricket Pod.
Max, Patreon. Did he say Patreon? I wasn't listening to him.
No,
we have a
didn't
Patreon.
say Patreon.
We have Patreon. Patreon.com/The Cricket Pod if you want to give to the show directly. We have recently processed all of the data from the whole history of the IPL, all of the ball-by-ball data, so that you can sort it by, venue, by phase, by batting position, by bowler type, by batter type, by batter handedness. All of this stuff, you can get the matchups for every single combination of player that have ever faced off in the IPL on your computer, laptop, phone, whatever. And you can play around with that, become a sports analyst. We've done that for you, for our Patreons, for $5, £4, or 410 rupees. Over at
pretty
Patreon.
Good deal. That's a pretty good deal. Imagine if you went on your Tinder profile, you just I don't know what to put on my Tinder or your Grinder profile, and you're just like, actually, I've got all the IPL stats. I'd be swiping right. It's
a conversation starter. Break the ice.
It is. Yeah. Patreon.com/The Cricket Pod for all of that. Right, the format for this show, fellas, we're going to do these 4 teams 5 minutes each. The idea was we'd have 2 20-minute videos, but we've spoken about all sorts of nonsense for at least 5 minutes already. So it's going to be a 25-minute video, followed by one that we rush a little bit. 5 minutes per team. Group A, starting with Ireland. Ross, you are on the clock. Tell us about Ireland. Let's kick this knowledge share off.
So Ireland are in the EU, so the mighty European Union. They love the colour green, and I'm going to come up with a few fun facts. So cricket was actually first played in Ireland in 1792. That is almost 250 years after England's first recorded game, which was played in Guildford in Surrey. If you wanted to know that, the festival of Halloween, which is what 16 days away, 15 days away when you're watching this, all began in ancient Ireland. And Dracula was written by Irishman Bram Stoker, however you pronounce it. There is also an unbelievable festival. This is better than Halloween. It's better than Christmas. It's better than any festival you can think of. It's called the Puck Fair. And this Puck Fair in Ireland is where a wild goat is caught and made king for 3 days and then safely returned to the mountains it's caught in. That's a pretty good festival, doesn't it, gents?
That is top stuff. That is what we want to know. You
Exactly.
used up one of your minutes very wisely there. Keep going.
Thank you very much. So the road to the World Cup, they topped the qualifying group, but then lost to the Netherlands in the knockout stage. But as they'd already topped the group, they qualified straight away. So they were kind of home and dry, and they finished in third place where they won against Namibia in that third place playoff. Their best player is obviously Paul Sterling, who is one of Southern Braves' stars, and generally quite underrated as he's a bit of a all-round brilliant opening batsman. And they do have Gareth Delaney, whose return from injury is a huge boost to them due to his spin hitting prowess. He hit 88 in a warm-up game against Bangladesh yesterday, where he hit 8 sixes. So one to keep an eye on. Their chances in the entire tournament, well, if you're an England fan, you know that they've got an upset in them. Kevin O'Brien's Bangalorean brilliance, where he hit the fastest ever century. It still lives long in the memory, doesn't it, gents? Like it was a tough pill to swallow, that losing to the Irish.
Yeah.
And I think they have the players.
I'm over it.
It's a little while ago now.
I was trying to build a bit of narrative here, but that's fine. Thanks for playing along. But I think they do have the players to be more consistent than some of the other emerging nations here, and actually probably some of Sri Lanka. They've got better players to be more consistent against those kind of teams. I think they have a bit of a point to prove, and I think when it comes to it, I think they're actually going to qualify. That might well be my heart over my head saying that, as I am a Irish citizen, but I do have the passport and everything. So that's another fun fact. But I reckon out of their group where the top two go through, they'll finish first or second. Their kit. So I said at the start, they love the colour green. The Irish, or has always been associated with them. I'm not sure if the Irish actually love the colour green. And
all of them.
Their kit, every single Irish person loves them.
Across the board, mate.
And they've got
And
kind of
gimmicks.
it's like a luminous green and then a bit of blue. So it's a nice little kind of mixture, or dark green, whatever it is. I'm a little bit colourblind. And if they were to get in a game against Pakistan when they qualify, there's going to be a kit clash. So you'd hope that they would have done a better job of their away kit, which is actually just the reverse of the pattern.
Well, they've got an away
So
kit. That's pretty good.
So they've got
Don't see
one
that every
bit.
day. You're in a cricket world.
So yeah, there we go, gents. That is Ireland. How did I do for time?
Now you've got 1 minute left, so keep going. Tell us more about Ireland.
Okay. Fine. So,
I know that Andy Balbirnie, he was an injury scare, wasn't he? He got hit on the foot in a warm-up game the other day. He's their captain, I think.
He's the captain. Yep. Good knowledge.
And they thought he might have broken his toe, but he hasn't. He's returned. So that's a big plus.
Returned
for the
triumphantly.
Irish. I think I think they're quite a good team. They played quite well against South Africa recently, didn't they? They're an actual functioning cricketing nation. They play test matches. They're good. I think they've got a very strong chance of qualification, Ross.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think some of their team they've played together for quite a while. And if you remember, they had that really quite old contingent before. They had all the O'Briens, they had Porterfield, there was Sterling still there, Joyce, but all of those guys, only one or two kind of remain now.
And Boyd Rankin.
Legend. But now they've got some really exciting youngsters, and they've got a good couple of spinners actually. So I think that is the balance, right? In the UAE, they've got to find what they can do, and I think someone like Simi Singh could cause a couple of upsets. So up the Irish.
Up the Irish. Very good. Nice one, Ross. Nice one. I think the next team on the list is Namibia.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes on Namibia. Not going to lie to you. I don't know if I've got this in me. So I'm going to start the timer while I'm still
Just
talking now.
Speak very slowly.
Enunciate.
No, seriously. Namibia, I'm going to tell you this now, are going to be one of the teams to watch in this first round of the tournament. They aren't going to get any further. I think you can kind of write them off. We have to bear in mind, that's not really their fault. I mean, it is their fault that they're not as good at cricket as the other teams in their group, but they are in the group of death. If you look at Group A v Group B, Group A has got Ireland, Netherlands, Sri Lanka in, cricketing powerhouses. Group B has got Bangladesh, Oman, Papua New Guinea, and Scotland. Apart from Bangladesh, who have basically got a bye to the next round. Group A is pretty tough, and Namibia. I think everyone across the board has said they've been unlucky. Quite a good team here who play really attractive cricket, who are really aggressive, who really go for it, have been stuffed a bit in the with the draw. Facts about Namibia. It's home to the world's oldest desert. It has the world's largest population of cheetahs. And of course, that's where you can find the Skeleton Coast. Do you know why it's called the Skeleton Coast, Max?
Is the sand made exclusively of bone?
No, that would be weird, wouldn't it? That sounds like something out of a fucking horror novel. Stephen King novel, yeah. No, it's because back in the days of the whaling industry, that's where all the carcasses would wash up. So it used to be littered with seal and whale bones. Now it's just full of shipwrecks. So the name continues. The road to the UAE. And now I'm worried I'm going to run out of time. Namibia, they qualified to the 2019 qualification tournament. They lost their first couple of group matches in that tournament. I think they got battered by Ryan Tenderskate in a match against the Netherlands. And then they went on a romp. They won 5 in a row to basically guarantee qualification. They didn't manage to win that tournament in the end. I think they had to have a playoff. That whole 2019 qualification tournament and the format, that's a podcast by itself. So you're just gonna have to trust us when we say the key matches they had to win. They pumped Oman basically to make it to the World Cup. Since then, a couple of their players have retired, I think. So COVID came at a bit of a poor time for them. But they have, in recent times, beaten a few good teams. They've beaten a few domestic South African sides who have featured players with Springboks caps. So they're not absolute mugs. They're all right. Their best players. There are a few players to look out for. Their captain Gert Hart Erasmus. He's probably the best player. I mean, people say he's the best player in associate cricket, so that's a good accolade. A good average, strikes at 140, also bowls a bit. Next player, and I think he'll be the one who breaks out here. JJ Smith. I look. It's not an exaggeration to say. You look at his numbers and you think that guy, if he has a good tournament, will be picked up by by someone in the PSL. Bowls left arm seam, strikes. He's a hitter down the order, strikes at 155. Then you've got David Weezer, who people in the UK and certainly Pakistan will know from his franchise and domestic performances. He
also was an international cricketer for South Africa.
Yeah, which is good. He qualifies for Namibia through his dad, so he can play. He's 36, but he can play. What is cool about them is the way they play cricket. They basically go ballistic regardless of the circumstances. Sometimes that costs them. They're like pocket England. You know what I mean? They're not worried about patting the ball around. They want to hit sixes and they want to party. By all accounts, this is the best ever Namibian side. Unfortunately, as I sort of teased at the beginning of my 5-minute power hour, doesn't make any sense on Namibia. I'm afraid to say they are not going to qualify. They are, looking at the opposition, the worst team in the group of death. They're definitely not the worst team in the tournament. If they were in the other group, I think they'd go through. But they aren't. They're in this group. That's how groups work. Group of death, and they're going to die. I think they could realistically win a match though. I don't think there'll be pushovers. Yeah, I guess let's give them a 10% chance of qualifying. Some people are a bit more bullish than that, but I don't really know how they'll get on against Manindu Hasaranga, if I'm being honest. Kit's good, 7 or 8 out of 10. It's like a pimped up New Zealand kit. It's all black with some blue at the top. And that is just a few seconds over 5 minutes on Namibia.
Good.
Any questions? No. Let's move on.
No time for questions.
Who's the next
Max.
team? Netherlands.
No, let's do Max because otherwise.
Okay.
Sri Lanka, Maxi.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
We're off to Sri Lanka. Have you started the clock?
No.
Well,
don't wait though, because otherwise it doesn't work, does it?
No, please start. I better wait for you to start. No, Sri Lanka. Yeah. Oh, Sri Lanka. A once great cricketing nation. The finalists, regular finalists in the 2010s and the 2000s, 2020 World Cup winners only 7 years ago. Birthplace of Sangakkara, Dilshan, Muralitharan, Jayasuriya,
basically anyone with Sri Lankan nationality, to be honest.
Vas. All of them, just storied
Angelo
names.
Matthews.
Storied names in cricket, Jack. And look at them. Look at them now. They're in disarray, aren't they? They're in a group to qualify for the Super 12 of the T20 World Cup with Ireland.
About 9 players called Mendes
and the Netherlands.
Yeah, the group of death.
And the group of death. Also, Sri Lanka, home to the world's oldest human planted tree, which is 2,300 years old. So, that's
How do they know that?
They cut it down.
Facts, isn't it? It's just facts.
Count it. If you cut a tree down, you can count it up, can't you?
Yeah, just cut the branch off and have a look. So Sri Lanka have made it to. They made it to this bit of the World Cup without having to do anything. They didn't have to go into the silly 2019 tournament where almost everyone qualified. They've managed to do that by being in the top 9 full ICC members, excluding India. So they made it there because they're not terrible at cricket, but they also didn't make the Super 12s because it turns out they are actually terrible at cricket. Worse than Afghanistan, it seems. They're going to win many games of cricket. They were battered by a subpar South Africa this year. They were all at sea against England when they came over. So I mean, against the top teams, it's not looking great. But on a more positive note, they have overcome both Oman and Bangladesh in recent warm-ups. So perhaps it's a new dawn for the Sri Lankan side. Who knows?
Have they got Jayasuriya opening the batting for them again?
Isn't he current? Yeah, they did beat India.
Forget that. A good India team.
Yeah, Bhuvi at 6.
Yeah, Bhuvaneswar Kumar at 6. Yeah, amazing.
Isn't Jayasuriya in disgrace at the moment? Didn't he?
He's not very nice. I think Joel Wardner's actually back on the coaching staff. I mean, I reckon if you gave him a bat, he would do pretty good in this qualifier.
I think so.
I'm just going to interject here because Jayasuriya, he isn't in disgrace. What happened was that he was accused of fixing a game. But because he loves cricket so much, he decided to retire and exclude himself from cricket so that nobody even talked about match fixing. He didn't do it, but just so that nobody talked about it, he was happy to fall on his sword.
It was Seppuku,
right.
Was it? It was that kind
of... Yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay, that's very good of him.
Well,
much like the overall state of Sri Lankan cricket and Sanat Jayasuriya's morals, their squad is a little bit all over the place, chopping and changing. It seems to be the nature of the game for Sri Lanka. They go through captains like Netflix series. I don't know, I think the latest one's been around for 2 weeks, taking over from someone else. People who broke COVID protocols and were banned for 3 years. It's all carnage. But within that, there are some actually good cricketers. So you've mentioned one already, Jack. Wanindu Hasaranga is a genuinely quality player, and why he didn't feature more for RCB in the UAE leg of the IPL is anyone's guess. But I mean, he's great. He's a brilliant leg spinner and can smack it a bit as well. So he'll be really useful and probably too good for some of the players they'll be coming up in early games. The captain Dasun Shanaka can give it a whack as well. He's got a pretty decent strike rate when he bats, and Kamira is quick. He bowls quick. Chandamal's experienced. There's some good players in there, but I think they might be a little overly reliant on a few of them because, as for the rest, it's just sort of like anyone they pick up off the street who appears to have played cricket in the past 2 years. And as you've said, Jack, they're in the group of death. If such a thing exists for a World Cup preliminary round, they are in it. Already said, Ross, Ireland are a good side. The Netherlands have got a squad packed with county experience, which you'll enlighten us all about very shortly. And there's Namibia. They're also in the group. So, it's a bit harsh on them, as you said. So with this Sri Lanka team, don't be surprised if you see them bow out early.
You know what you didn't mention? You didn't mention the lion on the kit, and we're going to have to talk about that. So we're going to have to have a bonus amount of time for the lion on there.
Well, they are. Yeah. All right.
Have you seen the kit, fellas?
Yeah, I have seen the kit. It's a pretty glorious kit.
It's a glorious kit, but why is the lion sad?
Well, it's reflecting the state of Sri Lankan cricket.
If
they start winning, will that lion get happier?
It's reactive.
Yes, reactive. It's like the Teletubbies. They have the little square on them, and they can project whatever. It's just projecting a sad face at the moment because they can't. Chaminda Vaas didn't want to accept the amount of money that they were throwing at him, so they needed to eventually, when they start winning, smiles.
Yeah, when they start winning, they're not going to win, are they?
In 5 years.
Just a reminder, if you're watching this video on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe. Road to 10k subs, and we're on Twitter at the Cricket Pod, and we're on Instagram at the Cricket Pod. And as we said earlier, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod to give us real money instead of pennies of advertising. $1.
I really hope that Sri Lanka go out, by the way. It's just a bit. I used to love watching Sri Lanka play, and now they need a kick up the backside, is what they need.
It would also be more interesting for the tournament for any of the other.
Right, we've had enough Sri Lanka. We're having enough Sri Lanka. We can talk about that, but there's about 1,000 games in this tournament. I'm sure we'll get the chance to talk about them. The Netherlands, who is finishing?
Me.
Ross.
I am.
Right. Ross, your time starts now.
The Netherlands is pretty much underwater, and if climate change has its own way, then it will be underwater. Its Dutch citizens are typically a liberal bunch, which is evident as they're the first country to legalise same-sex marriage. The websites I was looking at of this earlier made a shocking revelation to me that the Dutch traditional wooden clogs, so the traditional footwear of the 13th century for the Dutch, are rarely worn in society today.
No.
Yeah, it was a shocking revelation. For you football fans out there, so I get a lot of abuse because I'm a Spurs fan. Max gets no abuse because he's a Chelsea fan, even though she gets more abuse, and Jack supports Atletico Madrid. But for your football fans out there, it was the birthplace of total football, which Johan Cruyff made famous and took to his beloved Barcelona, who still attempt to play by those principles today. So that is where
Luke de Jong
it comes
just
from.
isn't up to it, though, is he?
No, he's not. I mean, he's the target man, isn't he? So the road to the big show in the UAE, they finished second in the qualifying group behind Papua New Guinea, and they took that really quite badly, as it meant they didn't automatically qualify, and they were just like, right, lads, we need to pull our socks up here and win the knockout stage and the playoffs. So they did that. They beat Ireland, then they beat Papua New Guinea in the final, and now we have the guys who are sporting a beautiful orange and blue kit. It's good enough that you don't compare them to EasyJet staff, which is, I think, is a big bonus for those of you who travel on EasyJet working in Europe. But the kit, I think, is sexy. It's sleek. it's what you'd expect from a Dutch cricket team, and I think people will be a fan of it. Their best player, Jack, you've already mentioned Ryan Tendrascarter. At the ripe old age of 41, he is probably their batting linchpin alongside Stefan Nyberg. He's 41. Yeah, he played county cricket. He's played county cricket for like 20 years. Like he's Is he having a Darren Stevens style renaissance?
Fellas, does this ever happen to you? Sometimes I think 2002 is still 10 years ago.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
It's 2 decades away, mate.
Yeah. How weird is that? Anyway.
Stefan Meiber is 37. So of any of the CSK fans who are listening to this, the Netherlands might well be your team of choice. They also have Paul van Meekum, who's pretty quick, bowls about 140, according to the cricketer that I read that off of. But he's not quite as quick as Dirk Nennes. So if you remember Dirk Nennes,
Oh, yeah.
They're not bringing him out of retirement.
No, I don't think he can walk anymore. He was like one of those guys who was just like, right, you're like a trebuchet. You're going to go and bowl at 95 miles an hour. Australia then said, do you have any like granddads who were Australian?
He was Australian.
Yeah.
He was from Brisbane.
He went and played for the Netherlands.
Yeah, he did. But it was the other way round. The Netherlands were like, do you have any granddads?
Jack, like on the Irish one, I'm trying to create a narrative. It's funnier that way.
We're trying. This is a knowledge share. We're trying to get to 7 out of 10, and you're making up fairy stories.
Mate, live in the real world. This is the post-truth era. Like, get used to it. They've also got ex-South Africa international Roloff van der Merwe, who T20 Blast fans and Somerset fans will know very well. And they also have Colin Ackerman and Freddie Clarkson, who both played for different counties within the T20 Blast this year. So they've got plenty of medium pacers, but they lost to Scotland in their first warm-up game, getting bowled out for 90. So it's not the best start to their preparations. But as with Ireland, they do have an upset in them, as us England fans and Stuart Broad is very aware of. Yet I fear their lack of consistency will probably be their undoing. They do have experience playing in the UAE. I mean, all the qualifiers, Jack, that you talked about were held there. But I'm umming and ahhing. So the pitches in the IPL kind of suited some medium pacers, whilst other medium pacers went all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I'd like to see them go through, as I want Sri Lanka to fail to qualify. But I think it's going to be pretty difficult for them. I think
Still got 25 seconds, pal.
I think they're going to struggle. But the Netherlands are a nice bunch of people. They're the tallest people.
Yeah. Although apparently, Ross, they're shrinking.
Are they shrinking?
Yeah.
Which is not good if you combine that with the climate change fact.
They could just be getting further away. Anyway, good work, Ross. That's a great preview of the Netherlands. Last thing we'll say on this group, predict 2 teams to go through each. Ross, you can go first. Who's going to go through?
Ireland and Netherlands.
Max?
Ireland and Namibia.
What? I am going to go...
You just previewed Sri Lanka. Nah.
I don't want Sri Lanka to go through.
I think it's going to be the Netherlands and Sri Lanka. I think teams are going to get stage fright because of that lion. It's going to bum them out.
Oh, nice.
They're going to turn the angry face on.
Cool. Right, that wraps up part 1 of this podcast, this show. We'll be back shortly with Group B, Bangladesh, Oman, Papua New Guinea, and Scotland.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.